Welcome back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tucker.
And I'm Lundy.
So we have, up until this point in Expedition 33, chronicled through Act 2 and the 2 axons. We're going to continue with the Monolith and to the end of Act 2. That's where we're going today. A lot of revelations come out, so we're going to go through that. Excited? Yes. Yes, we are. Sure. All right. So we just got, so we have to issue a correction because I was just, because by the end of this section, we find out who the Paintress is, and it is Aline, who is, their mother. So knowing that now and going
this is
backwards.
Your spoiler warning, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've given enough of an intro here.
There's been, 4 other episodes? I think you can.
Yeah,
you'll be fine. Yeah,
some people jump in
randomly.
randomly
On episode 5, then I feel like spoilers are on you.
Okay, so Tucker and Lundy, why don't you dump on me for having gotten something so wrong?
Shan, you're such an idiot. You are the
Shan, you ignorant slut.
No, okay. To be fair, so Shan last episode talked about the Siren axon representing Myelle, which, to be fair, my first playthrough, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, this is Verso and Myelle. Makes total sense. Until you do a side mission with Myelle where you find out this side mission axon, the one that you can't get to when you go after the axon, actually represents Myelle. So the Siren one actually represents Aline. Aline, the Paintress, the mom. A lot of French names. Terrible.
Aline. Yeah. Well,
Aline and Sikhen.
Gosh, it's so embarrassing for you to mispronounce names. Like, that's just what an idiot.
This is all on me.
Yeah, and I don't think Shan and Tucker. You're not alone. Like I also didn't make the connection right. And to be fair, like my first playthrough, I wasn't even like making the immediate connection of like, oh, like when you beat Visage and Verso is like, was this Verso? Yeah. And I was like confused by it. Like I wasn't even.
He straight up says it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I didn't
wait a
think
minute.
about
that's,
it until I went through it again.
Yeah. And so I was like, I didn't, but I think what helped clue me into it is, when you do that side mission, because Myelle has now kind of reached this point where she remembers things. She understands, both the curtain has been pulled back for both her and the player. When you're kind of exploring the beginning part of that axon, she talks about how her father painted the axons to be a metaphor. And, they ask kind of like, I think it's somebody in the party asks, oh, is this a metaphor? And she says, if my father painted it, everything's a metaphor. And that's kind of when it was like, mirror. Oh, like, and you realize that there are the 4 axons, and each of them represent how he kind of views each member of the family. Visage is Verso, Siren is Aline, and then there's the I forget the Myelle one, what its name is, and then the big one with the city on its back that's dead in Old Lumiere is Clair.
Yes, and we don't know exactly why that's Clair at this point, how that's a metaphor for her carrying the city on her back and having a sword in her back. We do find out by the very end of this section that Clair is off to fight some kind of war, before, to increase the stakes on the outside world before Myelle jumps in, or Alicia. So that probably has something to do with carrying the city on her back. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, are we covering the epilogue at all in this section?
We are going through the epilogues.
Yes. Okay. Epilogue. Okay, yeah. So I think just talking freely about it is, Clair really kind of picks up the Desandres family's role in the outside world. She literally puts her family on her back and carries her. So for me, that's really what the city on the back means, is this is a very prominent family in the outside world. And she is just, okay, we have to push forward past this trauma, past this tragedy, and she is carrying it all by herself because the rest of the family is very much so still stuck in the trenches of grief to do anything meaningful in the outside world.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until our next episode to really dive into, like, why was it significant to have Myelle's character confront the Aline Axon. I feel like more of that will be elucidated, so we'll revisit Axons a little bit later. All right, so it's time to head to the Monolith, and we pierce the barrier with our new rapier. We originally were going to go to the manor, in Old Lumiere with Verso in order to take out the Paintress's heart, and that would have reduced the barrier to nothing, and that manor disappeared. And so instead, we had to get the rapier. Now we're going to go pierce the barrier. Myelle gets the honors of doing it. So why her?
Well, I mean, I feel like later we know why her.
Yes.
But I think for the sake of kind of saving some story revelations until they actually happen, I mean, Myelle is the significant story. She's clearly connected to this world in some way. She's finding things familiar in places that she's never been before. And she's like, Alicia looks pretty much identical to Myelle. She has some kind of connection to everything that's going on. And so I think the fact that like her team senses that and they're like, okay, obviously it should be Myelle that breaks the barrier here.
Yeah, I think that it also kind of planted the seeds in the minds of the rest of the team. The fact that the curator wanted Myelle to be the one to hand the pieces of the axon that would be used to make this weapon. There was some sort of relationship that I think that they all picked up on where it was like, oh, he wants her to present this. Well, then this weapon rightfully belongs to her. She should be the one to do this.
Yes, it also is casting her into an active agent role. Technically, the midpoint of this story is also the end of Act 1 where Gustav dies, because the midpoint recontextualizes the entire story and sets Myelle from a reactive agent into an active agent. She stops being protected and held back, and she starts taking a leadership role and pushing forward of her own agency. That's important for her character arc, as it'll help elucidate how her character arc ends by the end of this. However, the structure, we'll have to get into like why the story structure felt so weird in this game, but it was perfect for subversion. It's the story structure itself that was subversive, that made you puts you looking in all the wrong directions. That's why I'm in love with this story. The structure broke my brain.
Well, it's just, I think that I sent you guys a text after the big revelation towards the end of chapter 2 here. And I sent you guys a text and was like, I keep thinking that I know what this game is, and then it keeps not being that. It's just like, this is more than once now that this game has completely flipped my expectations on their head. And I was just, because it's just like Act 1, you think you know what's going on, and then Gustav dies. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is a completely different thing. And then Act 2, another huge revelation happens, and you're like, what even is in this? What even is this game? It's just, I've rarely seen a narrative change so gradually and so drastically over the course. And I'm not even done yet, but it's just like, we are so far detached from our starting point. But it's like, it's just, it doesn't feel like whiplash. It feels like earned story moments, but it's so deeply creative and such interesting twists. And I am really enjoying this story. I'd like to firmly take back, I think in my Silk Song episode, for Eric's Indie Corner, I talked about how Silk Song would probably be my game of the year. That's none of that now. This is very clearly like,
I haven't even finished it yet.
I haven't finished Silk Song yet, and you know what? I might not ever. We can talk about that another day. But like, I'm pretty pissed off at Silk Song right now. But like,
that's a huge journey for Eric, because we got querulous about this.
I stand by everything I said in that episode. I was only about a third of the way through when we were talking about Silk Song, and I was making my arguments. A lot of new ugly beasts have reared their head in Silksong's game design that I just fundamentally disagree with. So, but Clair Obscur is probably my game of the year so far. Maybe Death Stranding 2 for me personally. They're both such great games, but I'm having a great time with this one.
Yeah. To kind of like, to beat the dead horse, I guess, but like,
Legend of Dragoon. Yeah.
Legend of Dragoon. No. Well, I mean, kind of. Like, I can tie that. But, like, one of the things, like, to Shan's point about, like, just the story structure just being so different, like, this section of the Monolith that we're coming up on, I've played, like, I'm not some authority on JRPGs, but I've played enough of them that, like, I got to that point, and I was like, this feels like the end of a JRPG. This is checking all of the boxes. It's doing all of the same, tropes and everything. But I was like, but it's Act 2. Why would you say Act 1 and Act 2 if there's not going to be an Act 3? Like, that doesn't make sense. And I kept, trying to Google, like, without spoilers. And I was like, how many acts are in Clair Obscur? And it's like, there's 3 acts. And I was like, okay, why?
It wasn't wrong.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Why doesn't this feel like I was like, did I just miss it somehow? Like, and so going through this and like playing all of those tropes and then getting the epilogue title card, and I was like,
wait a minute,
hold on a second. Like, this is like I was so confused for a while, and then, and so like we'll get to all of that, but it really caught me so off guard because I was like, no, this is doing everything that a JRPG does at the end of the game, but I can't be at the end of the game yet because it's only Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the exact same way. I convinced myself that did I miss the Act 3 card? Like, I was like trying to go back in my brain, like, did I like turn away for a little bit and then just missed it? Like, was it before the axons? Because I thought the same way. Like, okay, you're going in, everything you've been working for this entire game is coming to a head, feels very climactic, and then it just goes more in the best way possible.
Yeah, every JRPG I've ever played has taught me that when the group of teenagers use the power of friendship to kill God, then the game is over. Like, that's the end of the game.
Like, it's funny, like, so, and, one of the other things, too, is, like, as you're going through the Monolith, you're going through past areas of the game. Like, it changes to all these past levels that you've experienced, and a lot of JRPGs do that right at the very end, where you, like, quickly revisit everything.
Your journey? Remember this area?
Yeah. But to Eric's point, like, I don't remember if it was on a YouTube comment or a Reddit comment or something, but I saw somebody that described Clair Obscur, and part of the reason it's so successful in its story subversion and why it feels so unique and interesting is they were like, it took the regular JRPG formula and just reversed it, because usually a JRPG starts with some sort of like issue within the protagonist's village or family and then ends up with them fighting God. And this game,
every time
they set out to fight God and end up dealing with like family issues, and so it was like, oh, like
I freaking love it, you guys. It's so clever.
Another reason that this is so painful, right, is like how it just like it subverts you in the most brilliant way. Is this by story structure is like a golden fleece narrative where. A golden fleece is essentially a MacGuffin. From the beginning, you are getting to the monolith. So in your head, you have told yourself the monolith is the turn to Act 3, and then the Paintress is the climax. And then, at that point, you're only in Act 2, and you're like, well, then I guess it's a 2-act story, and I don't know too much about those, but I just know it usually comes in 3s. And the tone throughout this section, you're like, I don't know why it doesn't feel so resolved. And then by the end of it, things start to fall apart very quickly. And the entire third act goes in a wildly different direction that we can't talk about yet. But it's the fact that they told you what the end was going to be, and then it wasn't the end. And so your brain is just constantly like thinking and expecting something while they are doing a little trickery behind the scenes. And this is brilliant, right? Because I worked with somebody whom I loathed at one point, and I helped get him fired because I hated him so much. But
screw that guy.
Yeah,
It was me.
He
Shane got
he
me
could-
fired. Yeah.
he always told like the same stories. He told the same jokes. Like whenever we were on the elevator, he
Who
would
was
be
it?
like,
What's
"Does
their
anybody
name?
want to
First
get
and
off?"
last. Yeah.
First, last,
goes by his-
address.
Yeah.
It's gonna make you want to. It's gonna make you hate the
I'm
guy,
just
right?
kidding. Don't do that. Yeah.
Just the first name. He called himself Xander, even though his name was Alexander. That already puts a bad taste in your mouth.
Gross.
But he also could never stop talking about how he was friends with Brandon Sanderson, who's a local here. And I'm sure he just like paid to go to his workshops.
Who the hell is that?
He's an author.
Brandon Sanderson.
He's an author.
He's like,
Oh, he does the huge. I have a nephew that's named after the main character in one of his books. My
Yeah.
sister and brother-in-law love those books. I know who
He's
you're
like-
talking about now.
nearly in parody with George R. R. Martin as like the most important fantasy writer of our time.
Yeah, I was gonna say you said an author that wasn't like J.R.R. Tolkien or other
Who?
author's name here, and so I I didn't know who you were talking about.
George R. R. Tolkien. I love that.
George R.R. Tolkien and J.K. Rowling. I was trying to
So
think
this-
of a way to mess up that name, but I couldn't think of
J.K.
another
Simmons?
author's name. I just called it J.K. Rowling.
J.K.
I've read like
Simmons.
4 books, you guys. Yeah.
The point I was trying to make was that like this kid also was constantly talking and obsessing about wanting to become a writer, thinking he was going to make it one day. And because of that, he was putting things in terms like I do, where he's illustrating the structure of things. And he talked about Thor Ragnarok. It came out at the time I was working with him. He's like, that story didn't follow any of the rules of screenplay, like storytelling structure. And so for that, it's a bad thing. But it still made me laugh. So I'll give it a pass. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? The movie is good because it's good. Structure
Dumb
in
things
itself.
can be fun. Yeah, and that's fine.
No, it's that he expected, because he learned a formula, that all things have to abide by the formula to be good. And it's actually because maybe none of us are trained in what story arc structure should work, or how screenplays work, how act 1, 2, 3 and midpoint, how all of this should work. But in our heads, we know how it works because we've seen 1,000 stories. And so when writers are so good that they understand structure and to know how to serve the story by subverting structure, that actually makes them better writers.
yeah,
You have to know it to subvert it.
Yeah, I will use art as an example, surprising no one that this is how my brain makes sense of this. So Pablo Picasso started off as a brilliant, like, photorealistic painter, very talented realism paintings. And then he later went on to do all of his crazy, cubism, super abstract, really crazy colors, crazy shapes, people with boobs coming out of their heads, and just like really abstract ways of viewing things. And one of the things that I can't remember if it was a quote or if it was something that was said about his artwork, but it was something along the lines of, you have to understand the conventions of how traditional art works before you can break those conventions. If you want to create like meaningful abstractism like Picasso did, then you need to understand how, the proportions of a body and the muscles of a body and the features of a face are supposed to fit together in a normal way so that you can break those conventions and do wacky things with them. Because if you understand them, it's more meaningful. Picasso wasn't just tossing random shapes around and, creating, people. A lot of his pictures is he's painting people from multiple different perspectives at once. And so it's like he was doing things with a purpose because he understood the conventions well enough so that he could break them. I feel like that's what the story writers are doing here. They're not following a typical story structure. They understand typical story structure very, very well. And so they're able to break those conventions in a satisfying way and still serve an extremely meaningful and surprising story while not adhering to conventional storytelling methods.
Yeah, and this also ties back to like The Last of Us Part 1, perfect normal story structure. Last of Us Part 2, it's 2 stories smashed together such that the midpoint is actually the start of the second story, and then we get like 2 denouements back to back, which turns into a climax. Like the whole thing is so subversive, and that story cannot work without the structure. The structure serves the narrative.
Or as a TV show.
Yes,
I had to
they
take a little
try.
dig there. Yeah, they tried.
And I heard they did a chronological Last of Us Part 2.
Oh yeah, they released an update where you can play it, like goes back and forth between Abby and Ellie. So it's like all the chapters. I haven't played it that way yet. I forgot.
I want to try it.
Yeah,
just to understand the story. I mean, I feel like I understand it now, but like there's a lot.
I feel like we understand the story better than most people. We really, really dug into that game. Go watch that series, you guys. If you want to talk about a bunch of people being very self-congratulatory about how smart they are and how good at characters and story they are, go watch that series. We're all very smart people.
Yeah. Anyway,
what were we talking about? Expedition 33?
Maybe. This all ties together. All right, so we're at the Monolith. The Paintress, there's a giant Paintress. Her head is down. She seems to be crying or something. She's very sad. The team is determined, but you can see in the background Verso is upset and he's hesitant to do this. So they're giving a lot of body language clues as to like what's really on Verso's mind. And we'll find out later. It's just he's kind like I want to talk about how we feel about Verso by the end, but we have to do the legwork first.
I was all the way expecting you to get to the Paintress and for her to rear her head up and for her to just look exactly like Myelle. But she doesn't. She just sits there and looks sad and doesn't do anything while you attack her. Your attacks don't do anything, and she doesn't attack back. She just kind of sits there.
One of the things that like I didn't consciously think of the first couple times through, but this time it like stood out to me more. And I think like I kind of subconsciously recognized it before, but like when you get there and you're making your way, you know, the game is kind of letting you know that it's like you think that this is the climax, but it's not, because the music's really melancholic. Like, you know, it's not this like it's not building suspense as you get to the Paintress, and even as you're fighting the Paintress, like it's this really kind of
it's not triumphant.
Yeah, it's kind of sad and somber, and it's just this like it's very much in contrast to what this moment should be, like what you've expected this moment to be, the whole game leading up to it. The music definitely, you know, where in the entire game leading up to this, the music has, you know, really set the stage and just amplified everything, and now it is in stark contrast to what this moment is supposed to be, and kind of clues you in that something's not quite right here.
I think that's exactly right. The music for this, it's foreshadowing in a way. It's like if you play it the first time, you're like, this isn't how I feel inside getting to this moment. The second time you play the game, you're like, this is exactly how I'm supposed to play or feel at this moment. I was very stricken by this song that plays at the Monolith. I put it on repeat for a while because it was just so melancholic and beautiful to me. The song is called Aline. And the lyrics are, Sois fui, je t'en prie, fui cet tableau maudit, cette toile donne face vie. So get out of the way, or get out and run away. I beg you, run away from this cursed painting, this canvas of false life. Votre rêve imparfait, chant de ta liberté. Dream portrait imperfect, chain of your freedom. Alors tranche en la trame dès que la sinistre esquisse. So cut out the weave, unpick the sinister sketch. So it is heavy
Sinister
foreshadowing.
Sketch. Ooh, I like that.
And unpick
Aaron,
the weave.
That's how you pronounce foreign things.
There you go. French words. You did it.
Yeah.
Hang on. How'd you do that again phonetically? Yeah.
No, there was a period in my life where like I listened to a bunch of French songs because I was really into Ratatouille, and that helped me out.
I don't know what I thought you were going to say, but it was not that.
Talk about subverting expectations. That was not where I thought that sentence was going.
I loved Ratatouille. I watched it like 10 times, like the first few months it had come out. I don't know why.
Times. I mean, I like Ratatouille, but that's too many times, Shan.
I don't know why. I'd like to like go back and like analyze myself psychoanalytically. Like, what the heck was on my mind that this captured me at this time?
It's pretty weird, man. I don't know.
Inside Out did the same thing for me.
Well, that's a great movie. I get that one. Yeah.
I don't go back to Ratatouille. I go back to Inside Out. That movie holds up perfectly. It gets deeper as you mature and as you have a family. It's gorgeous. I don't know if I could watch it now that I have 2 girls. That might
there are
break
some
me.
movies that once you have kids, they're different. Yeah.
Oof, okay, that's gonna hurt. Once my kid like goes through the innocent phase and becomes like a young adult phase, Eric, your kids are going through that right now.
I mean, they're getting close. I've got Gwen's almost 9. Emily just turned 7, so they're still like kids, but they're on their way.
Yeah, in Death Stranding with Scott, he had said something that really hit me, like a core memory, like Inside Out style, where he's like, my kids are getting older and their problems aren't cute problems anymore. And I was like, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt that you like because I adore this phase of having a toddler. She's the funniest kid in the world. She is the cutest kid. She makes me laugh every day and she's so smart. And I adore watching her go through this. But she's like innocent. Once her problems are like, I'm depressed or I have anxiety, I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
I mean, yeah, my kids aren't quite there yet, but I mean, I don't know. They have me for a father, so they've got at least a 50% chance for that good old depression and anxiety. So we'll see.
Eric's depression phase was hard on all of us.
Yeah, I'm doing better. It's hard for everyone in my immediate proximity, and for a lot of people in my not immediate proximity. It was pretty intense. I'm doing lots better now. It was mostly situational depression. I was just sad with the state of my life, and now that I've kind of found a way to turn the state of my life around, I'm doing better mostly. I have off days. Everybody has off days, but
Yeah, but those are like grumpy days. Like you were fundamentally off axis for like 2 years or something. I mean, you gained like 60 pounds in a few months. Like I didn't know what was happening. That number
gets bigger every time you.
It's always
it was
60.
Like 20. Yeah.
No, it was 60 pounds. You were a lightweight, and then you put
I
on.
am 60 pounds heavier now than I was at my when I was.
And you put it all on within that 6-month period.
Yeah. No, the math isn't adding up. I could break it down.
The math adds up perfectly.
I was very skinny in high school. Yeah, so I had a lot of weight to put on.
To be fair, in retrospect, that was just you becoming an adult.
Yeah, now I'm just normal size.
While you were depressed. It was unfortunate timing, that's all. Anyway, so you're at the Paintress, attacks are nullified, Myelle approaches, we go to a black and white scene, the white-haired faceless lady approaches, we learn that this is the Paintress, she's, attached to the curator, so that all adds up. Verso is worried about this. Myelle's face lights on fire, and then only the women also light on fire, but Verso and Minoko don't. So I don't know why Minoko didn't.
I think I do.
Yeah.
But
okay, go on.
It doesn't answer it until later. So we find out something about the nature of the 3 characters who burst into flames and then the 2 that don't. And I don't know if we want to talk about it now, if we want to wait till that revelation comes. As
long as it's by this section that we're going to be talking about, then you're fine. Okay, it's all fair game.
Okay, so later on we find out that some of the characters are of this world and others are not. And so the ones that are lit on fire are the ones that are of this. No, that's not true.
No, because Minoko and Verso are strictly of that world. And so I thought it might have been something like that.
Never
but
mind.
then
I don't know then. As I was saying that, I was like, that's not right. Yeah.
But is Ciel and Lune, they're also of that world, right? Do they have real world analogs?
No, I don't know.
So I have a hypothesis. I don't know for certain that this is something that is confirmed in the game. But knowing kind of what... I mean, I could save this towards the end for when we actually kind of get to the reveal, if we want. But I do have kind of a hypothesis as to why Myelle bursts into flames first, and then Ciel and Lune do after as well, but not Verso or Minoko.
I think that Myelle bursting into flames, at least to me, brought to mind the fire that Alicia suffered that burned her face.
A fire?
A fire
on Myelle? Yeah, it's clear now, knowing that Myelle is, spoilers, Alicia, the Paintress is reminding her of this pain. Yeah. But as for the others, why and why not, we can revisit this if it comes to us.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to note that Aline blames Myelle for this fire, and I mean, we find out Verso's death, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. But she blames
these
Myelle
characters are
or
attached
Alicia for this. Yeah.
So the Paintress, as Aline, hates Myelle because of Verso, and those Ciel and Lune are attached to Myelle, and they're her friends, right? Whereas Verso and Monoko, she wants to preserve them.
So my hypothesis with this, I'll go ahead and get into it now, because we do kind of see, like when Alicia enters the canvas, there's some of Aline's chroma around her, and Claire's like, "Hey, be calm," and she can't quite stay calm, and so it kind of envelops her, and she's like, "Well, you're about to be reborn into this world as one of her creations." And that's kind of when she's born as Myelle. And there are certain things that we learn, regarding that, like where the first thing when she's born, the first thing that her parents say is, "Oh, what a strong voice." When Alicia has lost the ability to speak, and her skin is fine, it's not scarred. And so we see that she's reborn, but she's also kind of gained these things that she had lost. And we also realize that, she had very loving parents when she was born, which is something that Myelle, when she can't quite remember, assumes that her parents didn't care for her, kind of similar to how her real world parents don't. But this, specifically her mother gives this long monologue about how much she loves Myelle, this painted mother. And when you look at the party of the game as we're going along through Act 1, all of them kind of have this role that they fit, where they're Myelle's family, like they're reflections of Myelle's family before everything fell apart. So Myelle being a paintress, even though she's not aware, at the beginning, she is still affecting the world around her. So Gustav is a stand-in for both. It's like she says, "We could never tell if you were my brother or my father, but to me you were both." And so Gustav kind of fills that role that Verso and Renoir filled in the real world. Lune is she's very analytical. She's kind of locked in and like focused on her work and everything. They have a little bit of bickering, but like to me, I think that Lune kind of almost represents Clea. And then Ciel is the one that's very nurturing. She's, like very, she takes the time to think, and she's very caring. She's very motherly to Myelle. And so she kind of fills that role there. Like, I think that these relationships that Myelle has formed are subconscious extensions of herself. And so when, in this moment, when the Paintress causes her to undergo that fire again, and kind of affects her at that subconscious level that she doesn't quite understand, it hits her first, she bursts into flames, and then by extension, Lune and Ciel, because they have that connection that Myelle influenced, it passes on to them as well. Again, that's just my hypothesis on this situation. To my knowledge, that's not explained anywhere in the game. So I could be off on that, but that's just kind of my interpretation of it.
Yeah, I had imagined these side characters also as extensions of the people she knew. I think I hadn't considered Gustav being Verso and Renoir. I like that interpretation of it, or at least what she wishes they could have been. So yes, but yeah, they do seem to be somewhat of analogs for the real people. So here, Myelle, as she's suffering, Verso chooses to embrace Myelle. The fire stops, color returns. She exits through, the Paintress exits through a portal, and they follow after her. So we don't know why she let them inside, because to us, we think she's trying to stop us from stopping her. So it seems like the fire was in line with that because like, hey, I'm burning you to stop you, but it turns out maybe that was just to get you to remember your pain, because if you were ever on fire, that deep pain would be like a stateful memory to be able to unlock other memories. She's like, please remember, but also come with me because I'm trying to teach you who you are.
I thought, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, I thought they were in a rush because they didn't know how long it was going to be open. I think Verso says
No,
this might be our
I think they just
only
kind of
chance.
walk through, like, let's follow
That
them.
happens a little bit later. I know what
okay.
you're talking about, Tucker. That happens
Okay,
a little bit later.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we also know that that's not really the Paintress, because the Paintress is trapped on top of the monolith. So this seems to be like an astral projection or something, or they're in some kind of like pocket dimension while this is happening, or at least maybe it just looks like that because they're
this is when you go inside the monolith, right? So now
Yes.
you're in,
All right, so we see so while we're walking through there, we see a bunch of vignettes in black and white that are further foreshadowing what's to come. We see a lady that's turned around and she's painting and she's on fire. So this is going to be Aline in all of them, basically. And we see a bunch of giant frames strewn around this area. So this is kind of like a surrealist thing. Also, when we're in the epilogues in Renoir's atelier, we see floating frames around the room. So it's kind of like a surrealist projection of like their surreal life, to have both of those in parallel with each other. We see another vignette of the paintress teaching her children how to paint. So now we know that this is Alicia. Well, I guess I didn't take a close look. It might be Alicia and Clair, because Verso learns how to do music instead. And we later see a vignette of her teaching Verso the piano. And when we see Verso being taught the piano, does that not immediately make you assume that the faceless boy might be Verso?
Yeah, that was my point of like this little boy Verso. I feel so bad in this moment. And then just the second playthrough, each time you run into him, you're like, oh, I just want to give you a little hug because your life is so terrible.
Yeah, well, so the other people the faceless people, like the ghostly faceless people that you run into here and there, they're the rest of the what's their last name?
Desandra.
Desandra family.
Yeah.
That's right. It's the rest of them, right? So it's like Renoir and Alicia and Okay.
Clea is the one on the forgotten battlefield that won't talk to anybody but Myelle.
That makes sense. Clea seems like a stickler.
Yeah. We see the paintress teaching her children how to paint. We go through, as we talked about earlier, a bunch of renditions of the biomes that you went through earlier in the game. So like you get the underwater area, you get the gestural area. This monolith is structured as a boss rush. I learned is the trope term for it. So this could also in other stories or movies or television be called Run the Gauntlet, where there's a sorting algorithm of evil of your weakest to strongest enemies, and you go through your rogues gallery until you are exhausted at the end before facing the final boss, who is not exhausted at all. So it's a common trope, still great.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen some more of the actual bosses that we faced. That might have been fun. That is something that I was thinking, because it's like you're revisiting a lot of the basic enemies, but then you face some kind of sort of boss. They're more like mini bosses, but they're specific to this area, like the inside the monolith. And they're very cool enemies, though. They have these like halfway split faces, super cool visual designs, very fun attack patterns to try to learn and parry and stuff. So I like that a lot. But it would have been fun to also see some of the boss battles that you had experienced along the way. But I think that might have made this area too long, because I was already kind of like towards the end of it, I was already kind of feeling like, all right, like this is a long area. So I think that's probably why they didn't do it, is because that would have padded it out too much.
Yeah, as you're rushing from like the rushing to the climax, that's where you want your pacing to be at its tightest, because the player's getting antsy. It's probably, if you're like if you got to the monolith and you realize it's not the end of the story, or it's not like the story structure as you understand it, but you get to the monolith and you're like, it's midnight, I should turn off the game. But there's the allure of knowing, oh, but I'm so close to the climax, I can't stop until I get there. If you draw out this moment too long, people would get upset if it's like, that took 3 hours. There's an expectation embedded inside of
The Last of Us
you.
Part 2. That's what that exact thing is what happened to me playing that game.
It happened to me playing Red Dead Redemption Part 2 when I finished the game and it starts the epilogue, and I was like, you know what? It's midnight 30. I can just finish this real quick before going to bed, and it's 4 hours long.
Well, and there's like side missions and stuff. It's like a whole extra game almost. Like
4-hour epilogue, and I was like, cool. Well, I guess I'm pulling an all-nighter now. Well, by the time I finished it, I was so mad. It's a great
happened
game,
to me
but I was so mad.
On Death Stranding 2, like just a few months ago, I was like up till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And it also happened on The Last of Us Death Stranding Part 1, because you're like, okay, well, now I'm on the beach. I definitely want to find the answers. And then you find out the game goes on. There's like a whole movie of cutscenes.
And then it's like, now watch a 2-hour movie. Yeah.
Both times. The Last of Us 2,
Kojima
same
wanted
thing
to make
happened.
a game and a movie, and he couldn't decide which one, so he just did both. Yeah.
Eric, what's the point in The Last of Us Part 2 that you got sucked in? Because I think for me it was like, okay, it's the farm, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm almost done, and then the game goes on for like hours longer.
Exactly that. And then you go to California as Ellie, and it's another like 2.5-ish hours or something like that.
And it's like, I'm in it for the whole thing. I can't put it down, but dang it. So what purpose does this boss rush sorting algorithm of evil serve? Serves as memory anchoring, so you recall earlier exploration zones under heightened stakes. There's an escalation. Enemy variants turn into buffs, altered resistances, or expanded move sets. So they're like echo versions of themselves. This is highly efficient for developers because it serves the narrative well, but they can just pull in assets that they already had and just tweak their AI. So it also is just highly efficient for development, which is probably how it became a trope in the first place. And then there's a narrative echo that it reinforces that the monolith contains and amplifies everything the expedition has faced up until this point. So it's a trope, but it's a great one. Tropes shouldn't in and of themselves be rejected. They can be very useful because it sets up expectations as we understand it. So you can subvert when you get to the stuff that you want to subvert, which they did. We see other memories. We see one of a man walking to a woman on a bench. They're in a fight. We find out that's her husband. So this is Renoir and Aline. They're fighting after probably about the loss of a child and how that's affected their relationship. We head to the manor again, and we get the journal of Aline. She's proud of someone's, her little boy's grin and seeing something that he had created. She's happy to have memories, but pained of the memories she won't be able to make. And she wants to fill her rage. She wants rage to fill her hollowness, but she instead is just floating in nothingness instead. And she can't be around Alicia because Alicia is a broken mirror of pain. This spoke a lot of raw human truths about how to deal with grief and how it's like, it's so irrational when you're in it, but this is how your brain is functioning. It's like, I need to move my pain from one thing to another. I need to fill this with that. Like, it's broken logic, and yet we understood exactly what she was saying.
Yeah, for anyone who's experienced great pain like that or lost someone that they love, it's kind of this like exactly what Shan said. Your brain is trying to latch onto anything and do things that normally wouldn't make sense. But in the moment, it's like they make perfect sense. It's the only thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. I also, loved the part where she, since I have kids, I can watch my kid learn new skills, surprise me with things that words that she's learned that I didn't know she learned, and she's just getting smarter every day. And I remember when I first had kids, I was like, I feel like my life didn't really start until like 5-8 years ago when I started making more money and unlocked my ability to travel and do things and experience life more fully instead of being constrained. And I had always thought before I had a kid, it's like, I'm going to really feel weird about like my kid having the opportunity to do all of that stuff from the moment that they're a kid. because like I brought my kid to Japan at 1 year old, and it's like, well, I couldn't go to Japan until I was 33. And so she gets to experience the world so early, and I thought that would be more painful to me and that I'd be envious of my own child. But now having a child, it's like I want to accelerate her experiences as much as possible and put her ahead of wherever I was. I want her to have a bigger, fuller life. It, like, there was pre-kid and then there's post-kid. It's like my understanding of like, I need everything for this kid, so that because you feel that the kid is a proxy for the experiences that you didn't have, and you just want it to turn out the way that you wish your life had turned out. So, yeah, anyway, but it also helps us like commiserate and ruminate with this character if we have those experiences. So we're starting to paint the Paintress in a different light, because we're supposed to not like her, we're supposed to take her down, but we're finding out she's a tragic character. And that's also serving the cognitive dissonance that we're feeling with the music and everything else. It's like, I'm supposed to feel triumphant, I'm supposed to be angry, and I'm sad. And the music is making me sad, and I don't want to do this, but I don't know why yet.
Yeah, well, there was this whole kind of sense, at least for me, throughout the game, where it was like, I knew that there had to be something bigger going on, that the Paintress wasn't just doing this for no reason. And so there was a part of me that expected to, like, once we got to the Paintress and understood, like, what exactly was going on, that there might be some conflict there, particularly with Verso, because he was acting weird here and there and everything. So I was like, that's about as far as my brain got with it. I didn't know what was coming. The surprise, like, completely caught me off guard. Really cool stuff. But I kind of, like, in my brain, I was like, what's going to happen when we get to the Paintress? Because I feel like it's not just going to be we kill her and everything's happy.
Mm-hmm. You get another vignette of the Paintress arguing with Alicia, so kind of making you feel that tension of like how the mother feels with Alicia. That's setting up some tragedy there. You get to the faceless boy, and he puts you on a train to head to Tainted Lumiere. The kid says it's his hometown. You see a bunch of Expedition 00 flags up here. This was I was confused about this at first, because like when I got on the train and I left, I thought, am I actually in Lumiere? But this doesn't make sense, because Lumiere's back there. Is this also named Lumiere? Is this what it fractured off of? No, it fractured off of Old Lumiere. I was just really confused, even though it's not that hard. Everything in the Monolith is a tainted, corrupted, fake version of something out there. But I was still confused because I saw the 00 flags and my brain tried to contextualize that narratively.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Why is this here? What's going on?
Yeah. Speaking of things, not to derail us too much, but speaking of things that make you go, hold on, why is this here? I kind of had that moment when you're running through and then all of a sudden you see the grave with Gustav's arm on it. And I was like, hang on.
Is that in the
Why
Monolith?
is that there?
Yeah, inside the Monolith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say though, I really liked when you go to that area, Myelle just has a really quiet. She just goes, "Oh," and it's just this like, "Oh," she just is sad, and like this thing that she had kind of started to push to the back of her mind is all of a sudden right there in front of her face again, and she just, "Oh," very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, because the Gustav's arm is particularly relevant to only Myelle. It's not relevant to the Paintress. So we're now getting the sense that these projections inside of the Monolith, we're obviously seeing a lot of memories of the Paintress herself, but if we're getting something that's unique to Myelle's perspective, that means, hey, maybe we need to rethink everything that we're passing here as particularly relevant to Myelle, even if it seems like it's from the Paintress's perspective. And all of this is kind of serving, like, right now we're on the rail of like thinking Verso and Myelle are dual protagonists, but we're getting the sense narratively, subconsciously, that we're setting up Myelle to be the true protagonist.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, the whole time I've really felt like, even though you play as Verso at the camp, like ever since Gustav died, my heart was just like, all right, this is about Myelle now.
Yeah. At the top of the monolith, or atop of Lumiere, we see a black hole-like void floating in the middle of an arena. That probably is the black hole-like thing that leads to the pocket dimension as we understand it between realms. Is that what that is?
It looks like it. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to. We've seen it a few
Because-
times. Yeah.
Yeah, so we see this kind of effect when Alicia enters the painting. She's in that pocket dimension. I'm not saying liminal space if you hadn't noticed.
She's in the liminal pocket space dimension. Yeah.
And it has those distorted physics visuals around her. And so I think this floating object is the portal through which they would either exit or enter the painting.
We also see it earlier in the Gustav death scene when Renoir goes up to Myelle and kind of does the Doctor Strange, like push her out of her body kind of a thing. It goes black and white, and we see her kind of floating in front of that, and that's when we hear the two voices like arguing between some mysterious man and woman. And then she comes back and re-enters into herself. So we have seen that kind of black hole looking.
She's in a painting matrix.
Yeah.
That makes sense now.
Okay. I've ranted about this before. We don't have to get into it too much, but the amount of people that believe that the Matrix is real, like, conspiracies have gone too far. And anybody,
Don't you
it's
dare
like
badmouth the Matrix. Everything in that movie is accurate.
okay. So Tucker's a
It's a
true believer.
documentary.
That's good to know.
That was
I don't know. I guess
quote if you
don't you dare badmouth Star Wars.
Yeah.
That movie was all accurate. So writhing on the ground from being so close to the
Millennium
explosion,
Falcon
like,
flies away from the Death Star explosion. It's
I call
bullshit.
bullshit. I think I'm lactating. There's no way I don't have soft tissue damage.
I love that movie.
Anyway, I could go on about that movie. But anyway, I just hope nobody right here, right now, is like a believer in the Matrix as a reality thing. I know the Truman Show was also pop. After that movie came out, a lot of people believed that they were the stars of movies.
Do you understand the logistics that like for that would have to I remember as a kid, because I used to watch the Truman Show all the time. It was like my sick day movie. So I remember like as a kid, you know, thinking to myself like, well, what if? And then I remember it was like, well, I was born in Utah, and then I moved to Illinois, and then I moved to Arizona, and then I moved back to Utah. And it's like, I've moved around too much. There's no way I'm interesting enough for like a film budget to be following me around like that.
Yeah, there's like a certain, maybe it's just like comes from a deep psychological need to feel like you're the main character and you're more important than you are, than other than like one of 8 billion people that don't matter at all.
Yeah. None of you are on the Truman Show. I'm sorry. It's just not what's happening.
It's just not the Matrix. Sorry to break it to you. I don't know.
Even if
Don't
the
know how that
Truman
would
Show was a real thing right now, no one would watch it because everyone already posts everything that happens in their lives all the time, and people barely watch that. So like, it would just be a syndicated version of like 24-hour Instagram. Like, no one would watch
Maybe
it.
that's what the director wants you to think, so you don't think you're in the Truman Show.
It's me. I'm in the Truman Show.
Yeah, it reminds me of Parks and Rec, where like Ben is talking about like somebody posting on Facebook or whatever, and he's like, come on, Fred, or whatever, nobody cares. It's how, I don't know, people have lived their lives way too out loud on the internet. This podcast is my outing into social media. I have been off social media since like the 2012 election because I found that to be too toxic, and my life has been precipitously better than everybody else's since that moment.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Not a big social media guy. We're a bunch of cantankerous old people.
Yeah, and I'm not doing this particularly for vanity. I'm doing it because I'm hopeful it can turn into money, because I'm afraid of like my job being downsized from AI, and I need to at least plant the seeds for something else if possible. It probably will go nowhere. So secondary to that, it was a goal of just having better connections to friends so that I would have a network, which also ironically would help me get a job, because I was
It's
to
all
the
about
point
money
where I
with
was.
Shan.
It's about surviving.
Yeah, Shan doesn't see friends. He just sees giant money signs walking around.
It's like, in a cartoon when someone's really hungry and everyone starts to look like a chicken leg. We're just all dollar signs to Shan. We're just walking wallets. Yeah.
It's the
I want to point.
in Gravity Falls when it's like, Grunkle Stan, sometimes I think you only see people as the money they bring. It shows like a family getting out of the car and they're all wallets. One of them, like one of them's like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna be sick," blah, and it starts like puking like change, like pennies and stuff all over the ground.
Gosh, I love that show.
You're
so
setting me up, shitting on me for this. On the other hand, since we've started this, Tucker got to meet Scott, and that got him I've gotten Tucker his third job, and it was because this forced a connection between Tucker and someone he never met before. And so it actually did work.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't work.
I'm just saying it wasn't
like giving you a hard time. Yeah.
I was doing it for myself to keep relationships and a network, and it actually worked for someone else. So the proof is still there. Because Tucker was unemployed for like over a year.
Okay, it wasn't over a year. It was like 10 months.
Okay, well, almost a year. Yeah.
It was long enough to run out of unemployment. And then we did the podcast, and Tucker got a job within like a week.
It's magic. Join our podcast. Get a job.
That's how it works.
That's the 100% success rate.
Yeah. All right. So inside of this area in Tainted Lumiere, we see a giant man and a giant woman grieving together. So another projection of the grief that Renoir and Aline are feeling post-fire or tragedy or whatever. Renoir then steps forward from this scene and says she made him inherit the grief of losing Verso. So they're using a lot of pronouns. They're using a lot of ambiguous language. We learn later that I don't know what have we learned since now that I can actually talk about. Should we just skip through a lot of the foreshadowing?
Let's skip through the foreshadowing because they haven't explicitly said anything yet. I think we need to get to the part where they start to reveal things, and then we can start digging into the nitty-gritty, because for anyone who's following along with us that hasn't played the game, which is probably nobody, but like, let's explain it, and then we can start speculating wildly.
Yeah. We are just getting a huge twist of like, wait, Renoir wants to lose his relationship with Verso to save him. We kind of already understood that, but we're learning that people's motives were completely false. It was great subversion to get us to the point where we don't understand anything in the story as soon as this act ends. Right. So we get into a giant fight with Renoir, and he brings out like an electric lion.
This
battle is awesome.
So kick-ass. Yeah. So cool. Like, I love every moment with Renoir, and I did notice that like the thump of his cane was just ever so slightly less menacing this time. Either because our party has gotten more powerful or because his resolve has gotten less so. So I didn't, but it just, even the sound design was taking cues and being like, all right, you can do this. Renoir isn't an unbeatable force, and here's his muffled cane sound to prove it. You can do it this time.
And I love how, like, right as it goes into the fight, like, the music is building and building, and then like you get this wicked guitar solo like as it transitions into it, and like the vocals just start going crazy, and it was just like, okay, this song, like, whoa. Like I remember the first time just like it just blew me away, and I was like, okay, yep, this is awesome. Like, and that fight was real hard for me my first time, but I loved it because
it's a hard fight.
Now, this is how I imagined I was supposed to be feeling meeting the Paintress, but the music is telling us we should be sad about the Paintress and go hard on Renoir.
The song too is interesting. Like, did you look up the lyrics for this song, Shane?
Not on this one.
So this one is interesting. When you like listen to the whole song, there's a male vocalist and a female vocalist that both like represent Renoir and Aline, and they're, you know, it's very much kind of, it's not even really a conversation, it's more of them just talking their frustrations at each other. And
wow,
you know, like it's, you know, like she's obviously consumed with this grief, and he's in a way like, you know, okay, like, yes, but like I love you, like come out of the, you know, like they have these differences and they're clearly not really like listening to each other. And, you know, it's just this interesting rift between the two of them, where they're dealing with their grief in very different ways, and it's driven a rift between them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics now, and a lot of talking past each other and extended metaphors about painting.
Yeah.
What? Renoir? Metaphors about painting?
And it's a damn mirror.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we were talking about Death Stranding 2 and Death Stranding 1, and every time Heartman opens his mouth, it's like an allegory that has to do with hearts and cardiovascular and blood pumping, and you're like, all right, dude, we get it. You like hearts. Like that's how I feel about Renoir. Every time he opens his mouth, it's like, we get it, dude, you're a painter. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so after this fight, we get to run up the monolith and we get to face the Paintress head on. After we've disappeared and gomaged.
I had a really cool revelation at the end of this fight with Renoir. So yeah. I was trying to figure out, like, because you figure out that the Paintress is like, in my notes I had been referring to her as the female curator because she looked like the curator and she was clearly female. And so the female curator, you find out, is the Paintress. And then at the end of this fight, you Myelle joins hands with the curator and touches Renoir on his chest, and then Renoir gomages and disappears. And so that's the point where I made the connection. It's like, oh, okay, they're like, these are the only two people we've seen with like the gaping hole faces like this that look like the curator. It's like, that is the Paintress, probably Verso's mom. And then the curator is the curator, and I was like, probably Verso's dad, like some kind of version of Verso's dad, even though we just killed Renoir. And so I was like, is this his spirit? Is this some other manifestation of him? We find out later what it is, but like this is the point where I made the connection that's like, these like faceless beings are amalgamations of Verso's parents, and that's when it's also, I had kind of started to piece together and suspect that Myelle was somehow Verso's sister or some kind of incarnate version of his sister. And so it's like, this is kind of where it started to all tie together for me. And like, I was starting to piece things together just enough to like have a slight grasp of what was going on until, you know, it all hits the fan in a minute. And then so many more things were true that I was not anticipating.
Yeah. Yeah, after you gomage him, we then run up the monolith and we get to fight the Paintress. So there are 3 stages to this, from just fighting her to fighting her and a giant version of her that can rip through the cosmic space-time. And then a version of her where she's down on the ground, doesn't even attack, and you're just like beating her. And it's like, well, that's not how the third act of any given fight structure works. Yeah. Like, you're making me feel bad about this.
Especially
but Verso really wants it.
Yeah. Like that third version, one of the things that is so interesting is it's like she is really hot. Like, I mean, she beat the shit out of me so many times in that fight. Like, specifically phase 2. That was a hard one. Yeah. I could not dodge anything.
Third phase.
Her attack patterns are so hard to read, and it's like they pause for just long enough. Like you think she's going to hit like 1 second before she does, and it's just like, yeah, I had the same thing. I was like, I cannot dodge or block any of these.
So
attacks.
hard. But when you get to that third phase, the only attack that she really does, the only turn that she takes, is to heal a member of the expedition. You know, so she heals you while you're fighting and you know, trying to kill her, which is a weird thing to do in a boss fight.
Yeah, it caught me super off guard. I was like, I saw the third phase coming in, and a couple of my party members were low on health, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to heal one of them. And then I healed one of them, and then the turn right after that, she healed Myelle, and I was like, that's a weird thing for you to do. It's probably a trap. She's going to like heal, and then because she healed, it's like, all right, all party members at full health get killed immediately or something. And so I was expecting her to like pull some weird trick card out of her sleeve, and then she just kind of didn't. She just sat there all sad and let me kill her. It didn't feel good.
We also get this moment twist. Verso had Sori the Rock with him the whole time, and he just gives it to Esquier. You're like, what the hell was that? Why did you? We could have been flying this whole time.
Yeah. Excuse me. What is this? Why'd you do that? And I love that Esquier comes in and he just, oh, sorry. And then I love that the second phase that's really intense and stuff. You're all like standing on top of Esquier, and he's just like flapping his arms and like, oh, I'm having fun. While like the world is crumbling around you, and there's a giant monster opening up rifts in the sky, and Esquier is like, it's a Tuesday. Like,
so something that's visually interesting, I think, with phase 2, like as you fly up to that, is you see, it's the giant Paintress thing stands up, but she's got kind of that whole inner chest, like there's been all this talk about the Paintress's heart, and there's kind of just that gaping hole there. And when she stands up, it lines up so that what you can see through that is Lumiere in the background. And then the Paintress, like, the smaller one, she flies up and is kind of just occupying that space as well. But it's a couple interesting just visual things, I thought, where it's like, okay, like, in one sense, like, her heart is in Lumiere. In another sense, she doesn't have a heart because it's been torn out of her almost. Like, there's just a void there where her heart used to be now that she's in this period of mourning. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of a cool thing that looks really good. I don't 100% know the meaning. I'm not going to pretend like I do, but like I saw it and I was like, huh, I think those are some, like, I wonder what that is supposed to symbolize. But
everything's a metaphor. Has to be.
Yeah.
For it to be great art. So we also have Verso afterwards helping Myelle gommage her. So this seems to be a power that probably Myelle has. The others can help her enhance it, but it's something specific to her.
Yeah, after you gommage Renoir, I think it's Lune, asks Myelle how she did that and if she thinks she can do it again. And Myelle's like, yeah, I think I can. And anyway, I mean, we learned, I think this is Myelle unlocking her Paintress side of things.
Right.
So
go on. I was just going to say that the Paintress, yes. So as the Paintress is gommaging, she calls Myelle Alicia, and she gets that like white eye trope of like suddenly having cosmic understanding of everything going on. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I think, I can't remember. It's not important. It'll come back if it's important.
One thing from me real quick that I noticed this time, I don't think I clued into it before, but when they gommage the Paintress, her petals are gold.
Oh, I thought they were all red. Maybe I missaw that.
Hers were gold.
Okay.
Hers are gold. Like when they do it to Renoir below, his are red. But they gommage her and hers are gold. And then there's a bunch of other red petals that blow in from elsewhere. But I thought that was kind of interesting to symbolize that it's like, okay, she's not like everything else in this world, which makes sense, once we learn the truth, where it's like, oh, these other painted versions, they all kind of gommage into red and white petals, but the Paintress, somebody from outside, gommages into these gold petals, and that comes up again in just a couple minutes here, like as we get the first of a lot of reveals. There's a bunch of other gommaging going on, and they're all red petals until it reaches Myelle, who gommages into gold.
Yes, good catch. Don't know what specifically gold means, if not just to distinguish that they are different entities. But as a color choice, I'm not sure why. Other than they're royal,
why
they're
gold,
special.
you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Just because like the other ones, clearly innocence, loss, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it just, I don't know the purpose of the color gold, but there's like the curator and the Paintress, like in their kind of broken parts of their body, they have little veins of gold running through them.
Yeah. So afterwards, the 33 disappears. They plant the 33 flag symbolically. This is a triumphant moment. You see Lumiere in the distance. You're flying back on Esquier, and Monoko is quiet, probably because he's sad that there will be no more fighting, or maybe he also knows what's about to happen.
Yeah, I think this last playthrough, I thought I caught hints of him understanding what's going to happen. So he has a very similar understanding that Verso has here, and seems to be just okay with it.
Yeah,
But
he
it's
didn't
still
want
a
to
little
join
sad.
Verso, and maybe, well, I think he just implied it's because things always go wrong, but it could have also been like he didn't believe in the mission itself, but then he wasn't, seduced by the fight.
There will be lots of fighting. Oh, all right. Yeah.
Son of a bitch, I mean. Yeah, so characters kind of give some, dialogue that's relevant to their characters. Ciel just wants to move on, live her life. Lune wants to find answers, so she found a new mission. There's always a mission, right? Which, yes, does make sense in line with how we later start to learn who Clea is. They return to celebration. The music is sad, though. We're not. It's the sound mixing is denoting that they're kind of in a headspace where they're not registering what's going on because they're sitting with their grief. This felt like Lord of the Rings to me.
Or you're like, this isn't over. Yeah. Something
No,
else
well,
is going to happen.
No, it's not that. It's that like they should be happier, but there's a sadness and when they return, and then Frodo is like realizes he can't. He's never going to be the same, so he has to travel to Valinor because it's the only place left for him. Yeah, so Myelle delivers the news to Emma and Gustav's apprentices. She hands over the journal to the boy who drops it and runs away. Pretty disrespectful, but this is
Bitch.
a little.
Friggin' little boy. People die, man. Why you gotta be such a bitch about it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we solved this, but at what cost? And especially just like now that things have settled, she is back to thinking about Gustav because that was the cost of the fight.
Well, and that was in this moment, like the fact that they succeeded and they're back in Lumiere and people are celebrating. The number on the monolith is gone. It's like it's pretty evident that cycle is broken. And so for a moment, I was pretty heartbroken that it was like, man, Gustav, like he could have experienced this with them, but he got snuffed out just before the finish line, basically. And like that's just, it was an extra level of tragedy on it. And then we find out later that, that's not exactly, it just doesn't matter because that's not actually what's going on. And so,
Yeah. Normal to the hero's journey is to take characters back to where they started because the location is supposed to be a flat, like a baseline for what we remembered when the story started and who they were. And then when they get back, they're like, yeah, they don't feel right here anymore. This world doesn't belong to them the way that it used to. They've been too changed. I think that's why they had to change Lord of the Rings, because in the original story, Hobbiton is just razed to the ground or it's like been taken over. But they changed that in the movie to make it as idyllic as they left. And for a screenplay, that works really well because we're contrasting and establishing how much they've changed, but also that Frodo doesn't work there anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, it just would have been too long to include because in the book,
And that.
In the book you finish, like, they destroy the ring and kind of like this game where it was like, wait, we defeated the paint, but like, this is only Act 2. Like, what's going on? In the Lord of the Rings, they destroy the ring and you're like, but why are there still like 100 pages left? This is the end of the story. Why are there more pages?
Yeah. So Verso appears uneasy. You know that he's thinking of something's going to happen. We find out what, but he separates from the group. He pulls out the letter he got from Alicia. She gave the choice of handing over the letter to Myelle to be able to reveal to Myelle who she was to herself. She talked about how it pained her to see with Myelle with him and seeing this as herself or as she was meant to be.
Yeah. I like that part in the letter where she says, like, seeing that, like, Verso and Myelle laughing together, it's like that is Alicia as she was meant to be, not this painted version that I am. And at this point, I didn't understand what that meant. Now I do, that, like, they're all paintings living in, like, a painted world. But it's like, I was just so floored by the beauty of that statement. It's just that she was looking there and being like, Alicia as she was meant to be, not this painted version of as that I am. And it's just, I feel like we've all seen things like that in our life where it's like, you look at something and you're like, that's whole, and you feel half or not whole. And so it's like, I mean, I don't think that we ever get to look at versions of ourselves and see like exactly what Alicia is saying. But I thought it was a really profound moment that
it was very,
it was very well stated.
Yeah, and if not something that we can directly experience in our lives because we can't see ourselves, there is a version, like what they're really saying here is, how do you deal with grief? Do you remember the past or do you move forward? And this is Alicia expressing that she's just stuck in the what if because she's lost so much. Yeah. And now keep coming back to that as we move into the end of this and the third act. So we learn that the world is painted by her mother to stave off grief. So her mother is also on this side of, I don't want to forget the past. I just want to live there instead of moving on. In ridding the world of the Paintress, they'd lose the sole force standing against the one who would erase us. So turns out the Paintress was trying to save them from gommaging. We learned that it's actually Renoir on the outside who's trying to erase the oldest memories as depicted by the oldest people in Lumiere. As they get older, he is wiping them out from beneath her feet to try to clear out the canvas. So outside Renoir doesn't have the same motivations as inside Renoir, because inside Renoir is depicted with the Aline's actual motivations because she painted him. Just this huge role reversal.
This whole part, like where everyone, like, I don't know if you remember, but one of the earlier episodes, I predicted this happening and it still caught me. I was not expecting it to happen at all. I talked about how when you get close to the character models, you can see that they all have a translucent gommaging texture, like with their character models dissolving. And I was like, I wonder if that'll come into play later. And then that's the last time my brain thought about that. I completely forgot about it. And then like this happens and the huge shockwave comes out from the monolith and everyone dies. All of them. Everyone gommages. And then it's this revelation that it's like, oh, the Paintress was keeping them safe. She was protecting them with the last of her energy. And she only had enough energy to protect like this certain amount. And so every year she had to tick that number down. But it's just, so it's like, finally we understand the motivation of the Paintress, and it is the opposite of what we thought. She's not a malevolent force. She is a benevolent protector. And it's just this like, oh no, we killed the only thing standing in between us and oblivion. Like, whoops.
Right. And so if Renoir was trying to prevent you from stopping her, then that recontextualizes what Renoir was trying to do the whole time. Yeah. Because he was trying to stop you from saving yourself. Am I getting that right? There are so many things flipping on their head. I don't think I'm reversing that correctly, but
yeah, I mean, once we get to Act 3, you get a little bit of a clearer picture of all these forces working together. That I'm excited to come back and revisit.
Yeah, I think that next episode we can start to dissect like particulars about how all of this works, because for this, like today, what we're going to talk about today, we just have this and then the epilogue. But like just having that initial realization of like, oh, you were wrong about pretty much everything about how this world works was a crazy revelation. And I just was not expecting them to kill everybody. Yes. Like, did not see that one coming. It's like, all right, you did it. Everyone's dead. You happy now?
Yeah. Anyway, so after this, we get a glimpse of the past. Monolith year 49. So this would be the year that Alicia enters the painting. So is this 16 years ago? Does that math add up? Because they're on,
Yeah,
it's been six.
Yeah, Myelle is 16,
Yeah.
unless there's some kind of time dilation in the painting.
No.
I don't know.
I think that adds up. Yeah. So you see in this moment, Verso and Flame again. We saw this moment earlier, holding up his hand, saying, "You're okay." Alicia wakes up, but as Myelle, with a burned face, no eye, no voice. She's summoned downstairs by Clair. And we enter the epilogue in the manor. There are 2 epilogues, which I didn't think you were allowed to do.
I
think you're allowed to do that.
You head to Renoir's.
Skip lunch.
You can't skip lunch, you guys.
Whose bag is this? I almost tripped on it.
I feel like we bring up Tim Robinson a lot, but I think that might be my favorite sketch of his, where he has to go into a meeting, and he's about to eat a hot dog during lunch. I was like, "Hey, we have an emergency meeting. You got to come to the meeting." He's like, "But I'm about to have lunch." They're like, "Yeah, but you got to come to the meeting." And he just you could just see the conflict in his mind. And then he goes into this meeting. He's got a hot dog hit up his sleeve, and so he's like. Oh, and then he's laying down on the table. He's like, "You're right. Yeah, I'm just the tiredest I've ever been in my life." It's just so stupid. It's just I love the pitch for it. I'm sure he's just like, "All right, I have to go to a meeting, but I've got a hot dog in my sleeve," and just perfect comedy. It's so funny and so dumb.
For me, it's almost a dead heat. It's like between that one, Nude Egg is pretty high up there, but it's probably not my favorite.
Nude Egg is so weird.
I really love the follow-up to the hot dog one, where he's like, for a minute or for 30 seconds, I thought there were monsters here on Earth. That one
where
is
he has
excellent.
the pig and
the hot dog
mask.
mission
with the pig into his
The
house.
vacuum.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's a
with the Richard Nixon mask. And 55 hamburgers, 55 shakes, 110. Yeah, just like
I can just run. That's
like,
Shan playing Resident
thanks.
Evil. Or the
Yeah,
last
exactly.
of Ungrounded.
I think Pay It Forward is my favorite sketch. I think.
Pay for. Yeah, I mean that's a classic. That's a good one. Yeah.
Brian's hat might be my favorite.
Oh,
Right.
Brian's
That
hat.
is so
Dang it.
good.
I just
That is such a good one.
I just love
Don't do the voice.
the hell.
And I just just to understand this, for it to be read into the record and for it to be subject to not arbitrage, but to discovery, it had to the text messages had to all be relevant to the investigation. And so it's at first it's a pretty even balance of here's something they texted and then hating on Brian's hat and then something that they texted. And by the end, it's they barely speak at all. Then they talk about Brian's hat for 2 minutes. And then they're a smiley face emoji or money sign. Yeah, that's it.
Sign, yeah.
And because of that bookending of context, it all got read into the record. It is so funny.
What's the one where they go to do the prank thing and he's dressed up like an old man? He's like, "We did too much stuff. I don't want to be around anymore." You don't want to be alive? Oh, man, I just don't want to be around anymore.
It's too hot. Got too much shit on me. That and I'm allowed to show them nude because they ain't got no souls.
Yeah, Corncob TV is fantastic.
Okay, that's all.
A lot of good comedy. Anyways, and rather than you're all on the edges of your seats just listening to us.
Look, everybody,
our favorite other people being funny.
Comedy is, a way that people cope with grief, and we just talked about how everybody died, so we kind of had to lighten the mood a little bit.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Got to balance it out. Yeah.
At the point that everybody gomages, I thought this would be a really beautiful way to end the story. Just the only reason it couldn't have at that time is because you didn't have enough context of the things that they foreshadowed. Other than that, it's if you learned all of that you needed up to that moment and you learn, oh wait, the result is that we all die, I think I would have been perfectly fine with that ending, because that is a
Yeah.
beautiful ending.
I think if they ended it like that, like just how the game is, and they ended it like that, I would have been furious. But I think that if they had explained the story and given context about answered most or all of the mysteries, and then everyone gomages, I think that could have been a suitable ending. Like,
I like tragic
I can
endings.
kind of get on board with that. Yeah, I think that if you earn a tragic ending, I'd rather have that than a happy ending that you haven't earned. So,
Yeah.
Oh, one quick thought before we move on from everybody gomaging, because I just noticed this in my notes and wanted to make one of the things that stood out to me this time, like watching the reactions of everybody in your party as they gomage, because like you see a few of the characters, you know, there's the little girl that kind of like runs away and vanishes, but like you first see CL, who just kind of like closes her eyes, almost smiles, like she is like, oh, like we thought we were going to stop this, but you know, it kind of like reflects what she's constantly saying, you know, like one of her battle moves, she says death is a friend, you know, and she tells Verso that in one of their conversations, and she's just like, okay, here it is, like, you know, I didn't think it would be this way, but death come take me. But then you see Lune, who is panicked, and she is just not prepared, and she is freaking out as she like starts to fade and just gomages, and like just the contrast between those two, each of them is so just devastating for completely different reasons. Like one, it's just like, oh, like she's just accepting it, and that like good for her, but also like that's just like, as the player, it's like, oh, that's painful. But then to immediately follow that up with just pure terror on Lune's face is just, like, it's just really well done. Like, I love that they do that. And then, you know, at the end, Myelle gomages with the golden petals.
Right. And like, does that make sense for Lune? Because since she's always been mission oriented, and if they die, they die, and the mission's over, so does it even matter? So there's a little bit of strangeness, in my opinion, of like, oh, she desperately did want to live. It wasn't her throwing herself out for the sake of sacrifice. She did want to create a life afterwards.
well, yeah, I think Lune's attitude shifts once they succeed. Because before they succeed,
Well,
it's
she
like,
wants
this
answers.
This is what you do. Like we're going to go on the expedition. We're going to try our best, and we're probably going to die trying. But that's what you do. We like to try to help the other people behind us. But then once they succeed, all of a sudden she has something to live for. She's got decades and decades and decades ahead of her. She's got people that she in her life that she can continue loving. She has, you know, goals that she can follow, research that she can do. So all of a sudden her life has purpose again. She thinks that she's won, and then, oh, nope, you were wrong. It's all gone now.
Yeah, the ride back on Esquier as he's flying, I think is very telling, because it's the now what moment. And CL, I think it's CL, is like, oh, we have decades in front of us. We can do all these things we've, you know, just dreamed about doing, and we actually now have the time. And so I think there's some little subtle hints that Lune's on that ride back, that Lune's I think core mission in life changes. It's okay, I accomplished the thing I set out to do. Now I can do what I want to do and actually have the life I wanted to live. You know, there's a lot of conversations between Verso and Lune about music and what that looks like. So just echoing what Eric says, and there's a lot on that ride back on Esquier that's not said that really plays into how these characters react in this moment.
Well, and I think on top of that, even, you know, because Lune she's like the scientist, she's the researcher, like everything is logical to her. She is all about reasoning everything out, you know, and finding out how things work. And so for her, it's like, no, but like this isn't how it's supposed to go. We defeated the Paintress. Like the Gamage ends. Like we're not supposed to die. This isn't how it works. Like, to her, everything that she knows is now suddenly being proven wrong, and she's panicking at, like, I got this wrong. Like, my, you know, everything that I knew was wrong, and I failed the mission. Like, I set out to stop this, and now it's happening anyway. Like,
And not just I made it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's this, like, it's the being consumed with that, like, that fear of failure is what's consuming her as she dies. You know, it's both death and failure combined, and it's just, you know, just this moment of absolute agony.
Yeah, if your
I take
entire
back everything I
life's
said. That makes way more sense.
yeah, if your entire life's mission was around saving everyone, and then what you did caused everyone to die, that would be the panic.
Yeah. No, sting a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So in the Manor epilogue, you head to Renoir's atelier. You see swirling surrealist paintings. You see paintings of the Axons, one holding Lumiere, one the Sichen. Renoir and Aline are staring into the void of a painting frozen in place. And I don't think I've seen anything like this. Like every time I don't know, usually like playing Resident Evil 4 or whatever, like you find out, well, I've come to find out, it's like, oh, that's just based on some other concept, or I've seen tropes like this other places. I get to this part of the epilogue and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. I don't have like an existing story that I can reference where I've seen something so beautiful and cosmic and surreal as like all of these juxtaposition of ideas. It's like, how is this person this creative? Unless it's like based on some 70s novel that I've never heard of. There's a lot of originality pouring out of this game.
I mean, they go into the painting, right? And in Super Mario 64, you jump into paintings. And then you're
That's the closest I could get.
The same thing. It's, you know, it's basically just a shot-for-shot remake of Mario.
It looks like
64.
Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine effects combined.
Yeah. No, but I thought that this, like, where you kind of find out that this is a painting, they're all like, it's a family of painters, they're able to control the worlds inside of these paintings, and my brain immediately is like, these people are gods. They can create worlds, and then they can visit those worlds, and it's like there are living, breathing people in these worlds, and they create these people that can propagate more people. It's like they've created it's not just a painting, it's a world that they've created. And as a person who like, I feel like I say this a lot, as an artist, as someone who creates, you know, visual art, sometimes you create a thing and you look at it like, wow, it's cool, that's something that I made. And when you as parents, you make kids, and then you look at it, you're like, wow, that's a person that I made. And so it's kind of like this, as these godlike characters, they have that, but they get to look at this whole world and be like, this is a whole world that I made. It's populated by people and creatures and things that care about each other, and it's just this awesome power that they have, and I'm really excited to learn more about it and what it means.
Yeah, I think another reason it was surprising is because the entire time you've been in the painting, and so there are some rules of fantasy that are being applied, some cosmic magic and all that stuff. And so when you get to the real world, you think, okay, so there is a real world with a real world logic and physics and whatever. And then you find out that world also has strange magic. We're still in a fantasy world.
Well, and it's magic that's completely foreign to you up till this point, because you've experienced magic as it's portrayed in the painting. And so you're in the outside world and there's still magic, but there you have no point of reference. It makes no sense to you.
And that's why it's so beautiful. And it's like, so this whole time you're just sort of in this trance, or this moment of just like your mouth being gaping open while you're just like taking in, like, it's like you're having to relearn the rules of the story again within like the next 5 to 10 minutes.
I think
there's no point of reference. This is the second time this game has done this. Like
2 layers of brilliant creativity.
And there's little nuggets that they drop here too that, like, for me, I was like, oh, but like, I think this is where it leaves lots of room for this to become a franchise. You know, they talk about how, you know, they're the painters. Aline was like the head of the Painters Guild, and
they're against the writers.
They're against the writers.
What are the writers? I don't even, what is that? Like,
like, so it's just all of this stuff where it's like, okay, like all of a sudden everything, like similar to what they were doing at the beginning of this game, where like they're referencing things and you're like, wait, but I don't know what that is. And you start to piece it together and figure it out. They're doing that again here in, you know, the real world, where it's like, oh yeah, and here's all this other stuff that's going on, and you're like, but wait, I want to know about that. Like, who are the writers? What's their powers? Like, why do they not like the painters? And there's just all of this extra backstory that gives depth, but they don't give context for.
Yes.
And
so they can go in any direction they want from here based on how it evolves, but they planted enough lore to be able to build off of. And,
yeah.
And so, like, they didn't know this was going to be so successful. What if they didn't have the money to create another one? So, like, it still is self-contained, and it's great as it is. But now you can see, okay, because I was getting to the end of this, and I was, and I think I had heard that it's like it's successful, they might want to do another. And I was like, but the expeditions are over. So how do you do Expedition 32 or whatever?
Prequel.
Then you
Expedition
find out
34. Yeah.
Then you find out because of this world that exists, the next game is going to be Clair Obscur, some other completely different world. It's not going to be an expedition.
Any other painting. Yeah.
So they have set up this foundation and template with lore and rules where it's like they only have to take the mechanics of what was possible in Expedition 33. It doesn't even have to be fantasy anymore. Like, it could be Clair Obscur, like sci-fi edition.
Spaceship adventures.
They can literally
Clair
go
Obscur,
in any
the Cowboy
direction.
Chronicles. Yeah.
I mean, they won't, because it's
I
still...
play the crap out of the Cowboy Chronicles.
You can still tell it's like a time period piece, so they can't do that specifically. It still probably be fantasy, but like expeditions just aren't going to be a thing. It's going to be a completely different world with different stakes.
Entirely different canvas.
I love the idea of like multiple canvases, multiple realities. I think that they've just set themselves up to be able to do whatever they want, which is super cool. I also do want to call out really quick that I jokingly predicted this. I made a throwaway joke about the whole game being a windfish situation, like from Link's Awakening. And just as like postulating, like, what could this be? And I was totally right. I mean, it's not exactly a windfish situation, but you know, the windfish is a whole island in the mind of a godlike dreamer, and then when he wakes up, it all disappears. So not exactly the same thing, but you know, a whole fictional world created by a godlike being that they're trying to make disappear, and all of the people and things that live inside of them are not actually real, even though when you're playing the game, they're real to you. And so it just it gave me all of these feels that I had when I played Link's Awakening for the first time, where it's like the island starts to disappear and you feel bad and you're like, should I not have done this mission? And like, should I, like, I did I do the wrong thing? And this game is kind of giving me more of that. It's like, well, all of these characters are fictional, but we love them. And like, we love these characters. I don't want to see them die. I don't want this painting to disappear, even though I know that they're just characters in a painting.
Yeah. I think we get some informed character choices here by having Renoir and Aline fight, but not to face, but instead inside of the canvas. There's that in itself feels like, okay, for you to have gotten to this point, you must have not been talking until Aline lost herself. And now you're doing this indirect quarreling instead of actually talking. And so just that's something else that's relatable, is just like the inability to just be forward and honest about the things that you're struggling with, either with a significant other or with a friend or whatever. I feel like that's what's happening here. I remember back in college, like Zach and I got in a fight over Facebook, one room away from each other. And it was like a layer of removal that was just necessary enough to like make it not hurt as much, but it wasn't it wasn't as honest or as brave, and it made me feel like a coward and like a little chicken shit. I think Zach started it, though, to be fair, so it's probably his fault. Right. That was also like when Facebook had just been invented. That was like 2008 or 9. And so that was like we were just learning how to communicate through the internet and escape to other worlds for communication instead of doing it in person. There was something liberating about it.
The early days of hiding behind your, online avatar. Yeah.
Now that's just normal behavior. Yeah. We learned some more motivations. Verso is a painted copy from Aline's memory, so that's not the real Verso. Clea sees Renoir's attempt to retrieve her as futile, but Clea has set up mechanisms to be able to she set up the mechanism whereby she can't get more chroma. How does the mechanic work? She can't get the chroma back.
Yeah, Clair created the Nevrons, so we learned that. So the Nevrons are Clair's creation, and so Clair created those to give Renoir a hand up against Aline in this year. So before Clair created the Nevrons, they were in a stalemate. So Renoir was trapped beneath the monolith, and Aline was trapped at the top of the monolith. And so the reason that we see the dead bodies that Nevrons kill not gommaged is because Claire's Nevrons, that's the way she's controlling the chroma to not be able to return to Aline, is they're trapped in their bodies. So that's how Aline gets weakened the more and more expeditioners die, because that chroma's not returning to him.
Right. We first learned about this mystery as soon as Gustav got to the continent and we saw a white Nevron who gave us those clues as to like their chroma doesn't escape them or whatever when they die.
Oh man. Yeah, like one of the first people you talk to. Gosh, that's crazy.
And it recontextualizes because you can encounter these different white Nevrons and they all talk about, the person that painted them, and there's this constant like, well, that's like, are you talking about the Paintress? And they talk about, like, I think one of them they ask about the there's the tribute to the Paintress that they see, kind of the shrine that was built there, and they were like, well, I saw it, but it didn't match the the mistress, or I forget what they call her, but all of those white Nevrons, they look up to the person that created them, and we the whole time think that it's the Paintress, but they're like, but she's not the same. She doesn't look the same. Like she doesn't act the same. The one that painted us is merciful, and this, that, and the other. And then you realize it's not the Paintress. It's a Paintress, but it's Clea instead of Aline.
It's awesome. So we also get some context clues about the writers. Clea says that they used Alicia against them once before and won't hesitate again. We have no idea what that really means at this point, but it is setting up the ability for writers to be some group of people that can write people into doing things against their will or into doing things. So it's like the painting. You paint your own realities. For them, they write their own realities. Yeah, I want to see these people clash.
Yeah, I just want to see another game just to see how the writers' mechanics work, because it's very intriguing.
It would be really interesting to have this one be kind of about the painters and the next one be about the writers, and then a potential third one to be about some kind of conflict between them or something. That'd be cool.
We learned from Clea that she says Verso traded his life for Alicia's. Clea wouldn't have done the same. Very straightforward person. Like, I'm an honest person. I'm not this bitchy. So it's like, hey, your face is melted and you lost an eye and you can't speak. I hate you more because our brother died.
It's your
Clea's
fault. And
very
I don't like
type
you for
A
it.
personality.
Disagreeable. Does anybody have a Clea in their life, or is this just a little too much?
Not to that extent. Like, there are people that I know that are direct and willing to, do like what Clea says, where she's like, I don't need Renoir's help to fight this war, but like, I don't want to do it by myself, but I will if I have to. Like, I know people like that, but they're not nearly as much of a bitch as Clea is. She is.
I'm
Screw you and everybody else. Quote from Clea. Yeah.
Like, just this week, Tucker and my previous startup, Donde, officially closed, had its last day. It's dead now. And a text message was sent around to everybody who had ever worked there, and everybody was just kind of circle jerking how much they loved each other. And I just like sat on it because I was busy. And when I came to it, I threw out the meme, I don't like half of you half as well as I like, and I like less than half as well as you deserve. And like, I am honest, but I use it sarcastically. So the people who I don't like, if they know who they are, but for the rest of them, Like, I was mean for a point, though, to make everybody laugh in a dark moment with my dark humor.
I was surprised that got laughed because I was like, oh, damn.
Ooh, Shan's going down. Yeah.
When I saw that, because I'm like, oh, Shan hates investors and Shan hates a few, select employees that I don't know if they're smart enough to get that Shan is taking a dig at them. And I don't think they were.
That's been my sweet spot my entire life. Is like, I can layer my sarcasm in a way that the people that I'm using against don't know that I'm doing it. I don't know why. Like, it's so obvious that I'm being awful, but I can't help but being.
It's about you.
I can't help but being honest. That's my struggle. Like, I realize I can't pretend to like people. I can't pretend things that I don't believe are true. And so to get around that, I have to layer it with a lot of like sardonic, like dark humor. And so they think that they're a part of the joke when it's actually they're the butt of it. And like, it's a really bad personality trait, but it's how I'm allowed to always be honest, even when I shouldn't be.
I hate you, laughing face emoji. Yeah.
At that point, I didn't have to say that at all.
Yeah.
Well, there was a few of them that like are the fault of the company doing so poorly. And I couldn't pretend to love everybody in that moment. I could have just said nothing, to be fair. But I hate it so much about how some of them hurt the company that I thought was going to help me make it in life, and it has not. And I was right. I mean, in hindsight, a lot of people now agree with me, but they didn't understand it at the time, and I was just too honest, too early ahead of its time, Anyway, doesn't matter.
Shan, are you saying
I'm a little bitch
in your life?
I'm the Clair, but I use it humorously, and she's just a bitch.
So your delivery is slightly better.
Yeah.
So I'm a Clair.
He's Clair with better comedic timing.
Yeah. All right. So get in there, repaint your throat, try to figure out how to get them out of this painting. This is Verso's painting where she and him used to play, where Minoko and Eskie were painted. So we learned that this is a fond, shared family painting that where it's everything left of Verso after a fire. Probably everything else got burned. The painting is the only thing that survived, but it's also like all of his deepest creativity. It's all of his personality poured into this. It's expressive of the person that they've lost.
Yeah, it's the last piece of Verso's soul.
Yes. Well, and knowing that... Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, Tucker.
Oh, go ahead.
Knowing that, like, this is the last piece of Verso's soul, but also knowing that Verso was the original creator of Minoko and Eskie makes Verso my favorite person ever.
Yes.
That he's like, he painted those people as children to, like, be his friends. And I freaking love that. Like... It's so cute.
So now that we know that, there are some little hidden Easter eggs throughout the manor that kind of help inform maybe how he painted those. So in the room where we found the recording of Renoir talking about Verso being, like the masks that he wears in art is a mirror, that's Verso's room. And if you look on the bed, there's a little stuffed Eskie toy. And
I love it.
Then with Minoko, there is a hidden room that looks like a wall. In fact, it looks like a painting that you can just walk through.
Super Mario style.
Yeah. And in there...
the ghost mansion.
It's full circle. It all connects.
In that room, there are a bunch of paintings of a dog. And that dog has a little bell on its collar that looks just like the bell that's on Minoko's staff. And so Minoko is
his dog.
It's the childhood dog.
Well, I've been in that room and saw all the dogs. I didn't notice the bell, though. That's clever.
So Minoko, which explains his loyalty to Verso, and also just his weird need to, like, collect feet. Like, just, take trophies from, like, just...
like how dogs are always collecting feet. Yeah.
And his bloodlust for a fight.
Yeah.
Just how that gets him excited is playing or attacking.
Yeah. Turn of the century France was notorious for dog fights. Look it up.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Is that
I
a
did not
sneaky
know that.
dogfight joke?
Like you would fight dogs, or the
Sneaky
dogs
dog
would,
fight joke.
or the dogs would fight each other.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I just wanted to. I was going to say the same thing about the hidden Easter eggs in the mansion. I love that SK is the most powerful being in his canvas and his painting, and it's a stuffed animal. It's such a kid thing to do, and that's one of my favorite like revelations of just SK being his little plushy teddy bear that he goes everywhere with, being the most powerful and goofiest thing in this world.
When I was a kid, I had a little puppy dog that I won in a claw machine. He was a little blue puppy dog. He had one orange ear and one green ear. And I very cleverly named him Cutles because he was cute and he was cuddly. Cutles. And I used to draw pictures of Cutles all the time because he had little circle feet. He was super easy to draw. And it's just like, and he would go on adventures. I wrote like little storybooks as a kid. And it's just like, Verso did that. I did the same thing that Verso did, except Verso has some unbeknownst godlike powers to actually create life that I did not have as a child. But that's so fun. What a fun little, SK is just like a drawing of his stuffed animal. I love that.
Yeah, and so was this a painting from Verso's childhood? And he died later, and so this has captured his childlike innocence.
I think they refer to it as Verso's
Yes.
painting, so I assumed it was
They do.
Yeah,
he made from his childhood.
I'm pretty
But
sure.
I was just establishing at what point in his life.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said it was his childhood canvas, but
Oh, okay.
maybe I'm misremembering that. But
Yeah, and I think it's also implied too that this is where they went and played together. That's a very
Oh, right. So there was when they were kids. Yeah.
verbiage.
And so Verso being the only boy of this family, faceless boy, is Verso, as we already established, because that was the one the Paintress was teaching how to play the piano. And so what other clues did the little faceless boy give? I think at one point he said, the woman used to play with us, but as time went by, she stopped. And so there were some tragic clues there left along the way.
But the longer that Aline was in the painting, the more she kind of lost herself. It's indicated that she's been in there so long that she lost herself.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like what they were saying was referring to inside or outside of the painting, but we can come back to that in a later episode of like context clues that led up to the reveal.
Yeah.
All right, so Alicia awakens in the pocket, in between pocket dimension, surrounded by Aline's chroma. She has to avoid it to have control in the other world, but she wiggles too much and she gets painted into the painting as Myelle. That was the only thing I heard. She just wiggled too much.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because you see that when the people go into the painting, they either start off as people and kind of turn into those curator-like forms, because we see the Paintress as Aline, and then the like the real world version of Aline, and then the curator is a real version of Renoir, which I think they don't reveal. I don't know if they've revealed it yet, but I can do math. I can put two and two together. Like I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And so
On the IT crowd, for somebody who is great at taking several letters and rearranging them so it makes a big or whatever, and doing complex whatever, this guy keeps pontificating. He's like, you sure seem to be bad at putting two and two together. There's just a lot of IT crowd on my brain right now.
Yeah. So Shan made me forget the point that I was making, but so when Alicia is kind of born into this world, I'm assuming that she was going to take the form of something like that as an outsider in the painter's world, but because she struggled and got Alicia's chroma all over her, she was born as an actual creation and lost her memories and connection to the outside world. So
yeah. I think the line, maybe this is paraphrasing, for somebody who is able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you sure aren't good at putting two and two together. This is the episode where he's able to like do the longest words. What is the word that Tanatinbra or something like that is like that actually already is a word.
The episode where they're playing Countdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent episode. I think it's one of my favorites. All right, so another epilogue. They're not allowed to do this either. They keep subverting us with story structure, which is just fantastic artistry. So in this epilogue, it's Alicia. We see young Eyeless painted father and mother. These are Myelle's Lumiere parents. And the mother says, "Oh, my darling, we have precious little time together. You will never know us, but I want you to know that you are loved. I want you to know you're not alone. You will always be the beautiful child I hold in my arms. You will smile the brightest smile. You will cry iridescent tears. You will know love. You will know pain. You will know loss all too well, because we live in an unforgiving world. But you are strong and you will survive. You will struggle and you will learn. You will find people to call your own, and you will shine as their guiding light. For you will change the world and the people around you. You forever be our princess." Princess being the translated term for her name, Myelle. And so that's why they said her name will be Myelle. And then we enter Act 3. But as we're going through this voiceover, we're also seeing people that she's connected with. We're seeing a lot of Gustav. We're seeing a reflected version of Myelle against Alicia, cast in chiaroscuro lighting, as Alicia gomages into red petals. So this is Alicia transitioning into Myelle's spot as she is being painted into the world by the Paintress. It's gorgeous. I love this voiceover. It's like, no, I haven't. It hurts a lot, and it's not like this is a real world mechanic where it's like somebody often like leaves a prescient message of like, I won't be able to be with you when you grow up, so here is a message I'm sending to you now, wishing, like that. Just, it hurts though. Like they're able to capture these specific moments that could only be written into this story and cast into a really poignant light, and really make you feel the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah, I feel like I like this moment a lot. I love that you get to see a little bit of Myelle's Lumiere parents and how she wasn't an unwelcome surprise, that they loved her and they were happy to have her there. And so that this way that Myelle felt about herself her whole life was just wrong. Her parents loved her. They just had her later than they were expecting to.
And it also hurts because you're now learning that, Aline really struggles with her, and yet she is painting her into the canvas as somebody who is loved, almost as if to say, I wish I could have expressed to you how much I do love you. It's just that the pain of what happened, especially with Verso, has robbed me of my ability to portray that. But she still feels that way, as we know that she can convey through painting, which is her actual language.
Well, I mean, she painted Alicia that way as how I think she actually feels. I guess trying to think of how you phrase it, Shan. But she paints Alicia as more of a villain in the painting. So you have Myelle, as we know Myelle, and then painted Alicia that has the mask and the burned face. That has more of that personality and, I guess, screw up mentality.
Well, we learned that like the painters didn't really dislike Myelle, as she is actually to be Alicia. When they get to the monolith, it's like she invites her and she wants her no more. She only hates them when she finds out they're there to destroy her. And so it feels like as she's being painted into the canvas, she doesn't know she's there as an enemy, as an antagonist to what she wants, which is to escape to another world. So she might be portraying her as she actually feels about her. But that's my interpretation. I'm not sure. So how does learning Verso, what Verso, like he lied to you a bunch to get to this point. And now that you've seen that everybody's gommage because of it, how did that, did that change how you felt about him? Or did you just feel like there's more that I need to know? Like, you feel like he's betrayed the entire thing.
I feel like
based on
yeah, I mean, based on the last conversation that he had with Renoir, where Renoir was like, are you ready to make them all pay the price? It kind of had me ready to, it had me understanding that Verso had an unstated understanding of what was going on that we as the audience didn't have. And so I was expecting there to be some kind of price to pay. and it sucked that Verso wasn't being upfront with the rest of the expedition. And so I did feel kind of mad that because it was so much worse than I was expecting it to be. Everyone dying is not what I was expecting. And so I was kind of like that. I mean, why wouldn't you tell them? But also if he told them, then they wouldn't have done it. And he really wanted this to happen. And also as him understanding like the outside world, he knows that they're just characters in a painting. And so maybe he's trying to detach himself by thinking of them that way. And so I don't know, but it was a tough pill to swallow to watch Verso just kind of lie and have the outcome be so horrible.
I think it helped me to feel completely gray about it because he was gommaging himself too.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just I'm doing this because I want something for myself and it comes at your expense and I'm not telling you about it. It's that he's also trying to erase himself. And that to me made him feel so sympathetic as a tragic character that I was like, I just need to learn more because it's not black and white like I feel like it should be.
Well, I think that it's interesting because he does lie to them, but the core
by
of
omission, yeah,
the core of what he wants is one of the first things that he told them, because what he did tell them is the truth, that the Paintress made him immortal, and that he is tired. He's reiterated that a few times with Renoir. He is tired. He doesn't want to be around anymore.
I don't want to be
Tim
around
Robinson
anymore.
Yeah. And
like alive.
Mosquito flying
Yeah.
around. But he's at that point where he's like, look, I can't do this anymore. I think he feels exhausted because he knows, right? He knows that he's not the real Verso, but that the Paintress is the real Aline, and that he's there, created out of her memories, because she is, and so it puts him in kind of a weird situation to be like, she's pouring all of this love into me, but it isn't me that she loves. It's somebody else that died, and I'm filling that hole. And it's just this, he is just at kind of the end of his rope. He's just done, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get himself out of that misery. And so he's like, hey, here's a group that is working towards achieving the goal that I want, and I will allow them to believe whatever they need to believe in order to reach my goal. Because if he tells them, they're not done. If he tells them the full truth, they're not going to go along with it. And so he does lie by omission and manipulate them to achieve his end.
Yeah, there's some like iffy ethics with it as well, because Verso knows that this world is not real. And yeah, anyway, so I think for the justification for Verso lying about it is, okay, it doesn't matter because all of this is not real. But on the flip side of it, it is real because he's having real feelings. He's has real feelings of being tired and sick of this world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real mind effort, ethics effort.
Yeah, I think how this makes you compassionate about him is just like the fear or personal existential anxiety and dread from feeling like you don't matter. And I think that's just probably a realization he came to at some point is, if I'm not real, then why are we even doing this? I need to snap them out of their reality because I am pointless. I don't know. Just so yeah, I it's like he has to have thought all of us not existing is better than existing, and so we have to figure out why going to the third act. And all right, well, that's gonna do it for us today. Please like, comment, subscribe. You can find us wherever you find podcasts, and please listen to Eric's Indie Corner on Monday. I got it right that time.
You did it.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Bleepity doof, bleepity bloopity blow.